Tokyo International Airport, is one of the two primary airports that serve the Greater Tokyo area, and is the primary base of Japan's two major domestic airlines, Japan Airlines south of Tokyo Station. As of 2020, Haneda was rated by Skytrax as the second best airport after Singapore's Changi Airport, and as the world's cleanest and best domestic airport. Haneda was the primary international airport serving Tokyo until 1978. From 1978 to 2010, Haneda handled almost all domestic flights to and from Tokyo as well as scheduled charter flights to a small number of major cities in East Asia such as Seoul, Singapore and Taipei, while Narita International Airport handled the vast majority of international flights to Europe and North America. In 2010, a dedicated international terminal, current Terminal 3, was opened at Haneda in conjunction with the completion of a fourth runway, allowing long-haul flights during nighttime hours. Haneda opened up to long-haul service during the daytime in March 2014, with carriers offering non-stop service to 25 cities in 17 countries. The Japanese government is currently encouraging the use of Haneda for premium business routes and the use of Narita for leisure routes and by low-cost carriers. Haneda handled 87,098,683 passengers in 2018. By passenger throughput, it was the third busiest airport in Asia and the fourth busiest in the world, after Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Beijing Capital International Airport, and Dubai International Airport. It is able to handle 90 million passengers per year following its expansion in 2018. With Haneda and Narita combined, Tokyo has the third busiest city airport system in the world, after London and New York City. Before the construction of Haneda Airport, Tachikawa Airfield was Tokyo's primary airport. It was the main operating base of Japan Air Transport, then the country's flag carrier. But as it was a military base and 35 kilometers portion of reclaimed land from a private individual, in order to construct an airport, Haneda Airfield first opened in 1931 on a small piece of reclaimed land at the west end of today's airport complex. A 300-meter concrete runway, a small airport terminal and two hangars were constructed. The first flight from the airport on August 25, 1931 carried a load of insects to Dalian. During the 1930s, Haneda handled flights to destinations in Japan mainland, Taiwan, Korea in length, and a second 800-meter runway was completed. The airport size grew to 72.8 hectares using land purchased by the Postal Ministry from a nearby exercise ground. During World War II, both IJA and Haneda Airport shifted to almost exclusively military transport services. Haneda Airport was also used by the Imperial Japanese Navy Air Service for flight training during the war. In the late 1930s, the Tokyo government planned a new Tokyo Municipal Airport on an artificial island in Koto Ward. At 251 hectares, the airport would have been 5 times the size of Haneda at the time, and significantly larger than Tempelhof Airport in Berlin, which was said to be the largest airport in the world at the time. The airport plan was finalized in 1938 and work on the island began in 1939 for completion in 1941. But the project fell behind schedule due to resource constraints during World War II. This plan was officially abandoned following the war, as the Allied occupation authorities favored expanding Haneda rather than building a new airport. The island was later expanded by dumping garbage into the bay, and is now known as Umenoshima. On September 12, 1945, General Douglas MacArthur, Supreme Commander for the Allied powers and head of the occupation of Japan following World War II, ordered that Haneda be handed over to the occupation forces. On the following day, he took delivery of the airport, which was renamed Haneda Army Air Base, and ordered the eviction of many nearby residents in order to make room for various construction projects, including extending one runway to 1,650 meters. Haneda AAF was designated as a port of entry to Japan. Haneda was mainly a military and civilian transportation base used by the U.S. Army and Air Force as a stopover for C-54 transport planes departing San Francisco. en route to the Far East and returning flights. A number of C-54s, based at Haneda AFB, participated in the Berlin blockade airlift. These planes were specially outfitted for hauling coal to German civilians. Many of these planes were decommissioned after their participation due to coal dust contamination. Several U.S. Army or Air Force generals regularly parked their personal planes at Haneda while visiting Tokyo, including General N.S. Whitehead. During the Korean War, Haneda was the main regional base for United States Navy flight nurses, who evacuated patients from Korea to Haneda for treatment at military hospitals in Tokyo and Yokosuka. U.S. military personnel based at Haneda were generally housed at the Washington Heights reside.